I'm David Kerans. I have a few moments with Todd Holzman of Holzman & Company. Todd's going to open our eyes to a few dimensions of business that we don't really think enough about. New things regarding how sales processes do, how management of sales processes and execution can be improved. Todd, in order to help the audience understand why I think I'm lucky to have you for a moment, tell us about your background.
I'm an organizational psychologist. The last 30 years, I have been studying the psychology of influence. What does it actually take for one person to challenge and change the mindset and behavior of another person? In my pursuit to understand this very deeply, I dusted off some research that my field had seemingly willfully ignored because it challenged conventional wisdom. And it demonstrated that whenever a person goes to try to influence some other person and you're feeling some anxiety or some pressure, you end up doing that highly ineffectively in a way that prevents you from changing the person's mind and behavior. Chris Argyris' research, the guy who discovered this pattern of human behavior, his research with 15,000 people, my work with people across the globe demonstrates this to be a problematic pattern of human behavior, and it's consistent across companies, cultures, and countries. I developed an antidote to this problem. I've given it to over 20,000 leaders and salespeople at some of the best companies in the world and at all levels of organization.
I know you've had success across a number of industries. One of them that comes up more often than others is pharmaceutical. If you can help me understand why.
What does it take to be a good salesperson? And one of the most important tools is how well they handle the conversation. And so what we are doing is fundamentally reinventing the way salespeople and sales reps have conversations with their customers. And there's a huge need for this. I do think it's a conversational crisis. The reps don't understand why their access is eroding. Access is just a term for the amount of time I get in front of my customers. They largely see it as because the doctors simply have less time, and there is truth to that. I mean, the doctors make money by spending more time with their patients. In some ways, they want to spend as little time with reps for the most value they can get from those conversations, and as much time with their patients to maximize their revenue and the profits of their businesses. So you definitely have that dynamic. But what the reps often don't see is what it is about the way they're having those conversations, which doesn't create the value for the doctors and therefore erodes their access and the amount of time the doctors want to give to them.
So what is it exactly that's different about your training of sales reps, the on-the-ground sales reps?
Before I do that, let me pick up on something I really liked about what you said. This is what the research is showing. Doctors are complaining that the reps don't create enough value for them and therefore patients during the conversations. They complain the reps are too focused on their own agenda versus trying to serve them, that they're not willing to have the authentic, honest conversation with them. And if you're an oncologist, the market is rapidly evolving. And there's some new indication for a drug every month, sometimes every week. There is no way as a doctor I can actually keep up with it. I need a knowledgeable rep who can actually help me and give me the valuable information I need so I can better serve my patients. But what I don't need is somebody who's been programmed to say a certain set of things and who's only interested in meeting their numbers. I gotta work with somebody who's authentically interested in serving me, but that is not the default and the conditioning and the way these folks have been trained. And delivering the message has created some benefit, but the world has become more complex. And then when everybody is doing it, then that way of selling becomes less of a differentiator and therefore removes any sort of competitive advantage that a salesperson has.
What is it about your methodology that's really going to change that?
So first of all, you've got to help them jumpstart the journey and get a win on the board very quickly. Then during the program, they understand what it is about their own behavior that's holding them back. They learn the new skill set. We teach you how to apply it. So I'll give you two examples right now. Oncology sales rep, big blockbuster product, working hard for 6 months to get this doctor to buy. It's a well-known immuno-oncology drug. And no success, numerous conversations, and no progress whatsoever. Brings the situation to the workshop. 2 weeks later, gets 3 scripts, earning them, in this one example, $250,000. Another client, 600 former oncology reps went through this Breakthrough Conversations program in January. For the first quarter of 2018, they exceeded their revenue targets by 20%, and they attributed it to the application of this new way of handling these conversations. But it's also beyond pharma. A Fortune 100 technology company claims the application of this particular methodology enabled them to reclaim the largest telecommunications deal in history to the tune of $5 billion. And that year, they exceeded their profit targets by 130% and their revenue targets by 120%. It's not just salespeople need more authentic with their customers, leaders need to be a lot more authentic with their people around how they're performing. My programs actually change behavior and solve real business problems. And that is a huge departure from the way most training is done, which neither changes behavior nor solves business problems. Because most sales training, most leadership training is glorified infotainment. But all the research coming out of Harvard and McKinsey demonstrates that this infotainment paradigm, while it make people more knowledgeable, it doesn't actually make them more competent. At the end of the day, training needs to make people more competent and better able to handle real life circumstances under pressure, which is what my training does.
I started this interview by announcing my confidence you were going to open our eyes. I think my confidence was warranted, so I'm going to thank you, Todd Holzman.
Okay. Thank you, David, for the opportunity.